Warm welcome to USBBY's annual meeting. We are so glad you are here with us today. Before we begin the meeting, I wanted to share that in recent months, two longtime, very active USBBY members have passed away. Please join me in observing a moment of silence to remember Terry Lassane and Vivian Yenica Agba. Thank you. Thank you. The approval of the minutes of the 2020 annual meeting. The minutes have been approved via our online voting. We have several exciting committee updates to share. Regarding the nominating committee, we want to thank Terry Young and his committee for their outstanding efforts. Susan Polis and Claudette McLean have been re-elected to serve a second two-year term as a director on the board. Congratulations to Susan and Claudette. We are thrilled to have them returned to the board. We also are excited to announce the Bridge to Understanding Award. With funds from the Lassane Family Fund, we are now able to reinstitute the Bridge to Understanding Award, which recognizes work of individuals and organizations who create programs that use children's and young adult books to foster cross-cultural understanding. The first award will be given in 2023. Details about the award and application materials will be available on the USBBY website in the coming days. We'd also like to give an update on our twinning program. A generous anonymous donor will again match donations up to $1,000 to support USBBY's twinning partners. USBBY pays the USBBY dues for 4 underfunded national sections: El Salvador, Haiti, Lebanon, and Palestine. These are all national sections in which their children are in a constant state of crisis. USBBY's annual contribution to these underfunded section dues amount to $4,000, which is approximately 10% of our overall annual budget. Twinning, a concept promoted by USBBY, signifies a special mutually beneficial relationship between two national sections. USBBY has learned a great deal from our twinning partners. Resilience, creative reading promotion projects even in the most dire of circumstances, and many other very inspirational lessons. Please join us in supporting these underfunded sections with a donation, no matter how small, that will be matched and greatly appreciated. Now I'd like to introduce Kathy Short, co-chair of our State Ambassadors Program.
We wanted to take just a minute to recognize those of you who've served as state ambassadors for USBBY. The State Ambassador Program was created as a way within states to promote the use of global literature as a way to build international understanding, and also to increase and raise awareness about USBBY as a professional organization. The state ambassadors have played a really critical role in our organization for a long time, and they engage in experiences such as sharing information about USBBY and USBBY on various listservs, organizing International Children's Book Day activities, integrating information about USBBY and international children's literature into their work contexts, and hopefully we'll be able to resume this part, making presentations and displays at regional and local conferences once those are able to start meeting again. We greatly value those contributions and always want to take a moment to recognize that at our annual business meeting. I don't know if you can, if you're a state ambassador under reactions, if you're able to raise your hand or not, but if you can, please raise your hand. Yeah, great. They're showing up. Thank you. I see them coming up. So we want to thank all of you who've played that role, and any of you who are interested in becoming a state ambassador, please contact Evie and I. We're always willing to add other additional states and regions within states. So thank you so much for all of your work.
Now we are very excited to present some information about our postponed IBBY Regional Conference, which now will be held in person March 4 through 6, 2022 at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee, the Music City. Ellen Myrick, co-chair of the regional conference, will present for you some very exciting updates about the conference. Ellen?
Thank you, Evie. So welcome to Nashville. This is finally happening, and we are so excited. It'll be March 4th through the 6th, and isn't that beautiful? That is Vanderbilt's Peabody campus right there. And that is where much of our conference will be happening. So we hope you can join us in Nashville. I can't promise the same kind of weather as you see in that picture, but I'm sure it'll be lovely. So we will have a wonderful time together. Moving on, our general sessions that we have coming up. We have Margarita Engel and Roger Mello, who were the creators of the 2021 International Children's Book Day poster. Margarita wrote the beautiful poem, and the amazing art was created by Roger Mello, and they will be doing a session for us, which it's always a treat to see both of them. And they are very big friends of USBBY and IBBY in general. So that is one. And Jacqueline Woodson, oh my goodness, the winner of the Hans Christian Andersen Award will be at the conference. So we are very excited to see her and see her get that award, which she wasn't able to accept in person because that was for the 2020 year. And we all know how that was. So that will be on Friday, and that's very, very exciting. Also, we have Linda Sue Park, who is our nominee for this year's Hans Christian Andersen Author Award. She will be attending the conference and will be doing a presentation. We're very excited about that. Kadir Nelson will not be able to make it in person, but we may be able to have some kind of video presentation from him. So that is in the works right now. Also, on Friday night, opening night, we will have a local author showcase in collaboration with the local chapter of SCBWI, which is one of the very largest chapters in the country. And I have to say, the Nashville area has some really amazing talent. So we are going to be excited to hear from them and see their work as well. General sessions on Saturday, we are going to have a focus co-sponsored by the Children's Book Council. So that is exciting. First time we've been able to do that. On international books in the US, our speakers at this point are Maria Russo, whom you may know as previously as the children's book review editor at the New York Times Book Review. And she also is presented with Leonard Marcus many, many times at Bologna. They are both now working with Mine Edition, which is now part of the Astra Publishing Group, which also includes Boyd's Mills Press and Kane. And then we also have flying over from London, she's an intrepid soul, Ziggy Henna-Orr, who is the publisher of Cicada Books. And Ziggy has been in publishing, she's been doing children's books for about 5 years, but after only 2 years of publishing children's books, she had a book on the New York Times 10 Best Illustrated with 1 million dots. She is very lively and funny and has a very specific visual sensibility, which I think you will enjoy. So we're excited to have her and Maria and Leonard to be talking about that. Another general session that will be coming on Saturday is with IBBY Canada. And this is a little bit different than what we've had, I think, in other years. This is focusing on a program they're doing called Reading with Newcomer Children. And they will have in-person people there as well as a video presentation of how the program is working across Canada. So this is virtual reading right now. It'll be in person when the pandemic is a little bit further down the path. And going all the way from Nova Scotia all the way to Vancouver Island. So this is a really exciting program that can be replicated here in the United States. And it's exciting the work they're doing with newcomer children there. So that is our IBBY Canada presentation. We also have Juji Morales. I should have had a drum roll or something. He was our Braille lecture speaker. So we're so excited to have Gigi. She, of course, has won so many awards, and she lives in Mexico currently. And I know that she will do an amazing, amazing presentation. And it's always brings so much intelligence and wit and passion whenever she speaks. And you will not want to miss Gigi Morales. And thanks to Holiday House for sponsoring her at the conference. We also will be having our all conference read. We had a preview in our opening act. I don't know how many of you were able to attend our opening act. That was at the original time this conference was scheduled for, last March. But we will be continuing that conversation with Rita Zepedes. And this time we'll be focusing on the new graphic novel. So there is more to come on this, where we've got lots of things we're trying to kind of solidify, but this is going to be a really exciting session. And if you haven't gotten the graphic novel yet, it is so well done. And it'll be exciting to hear about the evolution of her story in this new format. So this is Rita Zepedes, and Nicole Robinson Hamilton will also be part of that, as she was in the conversation we hosted before. So we're excited to have that. Also on Sunday, we have audiobooks, The Power of Voice. And we're very, very thrilled to have Tracy Sorrell as one of our speakers for that. Tracy is the author of We Are Still Here and We Are Grateful, which of course won so many awards. And we'll be looking specifically at the audiobook. And the thing that's fascinating about this audiobook is its own voices in a very literal sense. She got young people to read their own work. And she was the producer of this audiobook, as well as the writer of the book it's based on. So we'll have Tracy there, Michelle Cobb, who again was part of our opening act last year when we were talking about Ashley Bryant's book. In this case, she'll be talking about audiobooks around the world. She does regular presentations in Bologna and Frankfurt and really all over. And we'll also have Arnie Cardillo, who is the owner and publisher of Live Oak Media, who is the producer of We Are Still Here. So that will be an exciting event for anybody who loves audiobooks. And even if you don't, maybe this will turn you into an audiobook fan. That just might happen. Also, we have 14 breakout sessions. Thank you, Wendy Stevens, for organizing this. So many exciting things coming up. We probably will have even a couple more. I think there are a couple more that are in there. So we'll have a lot to do during those times when we break out. And if you have a poster session idea and you didn't get a chance to submit it, it's not too late. So reach out to Wendy and she can help you get that underway, and put something in the chat, and we hope you'll do it because we have some great opportunities here. Also, let's talk a little bit about Nashville, right? Because, you know, Music City. So we are going to have some local tours, one of which will be the National Museum of African American Music, which is a brand new museum, which is getting lots and lots of national and international attention. So we will have a tour and a visit to that museum, which should be amazing. Also, Nashville is blessed with some amazing libraries, and the brand new Tennessee State Library just opened within the last 6 months, and we will be getting a tour of that. Also, the Nashville Public Library, and I'm hoping we'll be able to have a tour of the Thomas Titchener Marionettes, which would be amazing. So Nashville's libraries, which are incredible, and also a couple of museums. Nashville is the Athens of the South. You may have heard this before. 16 universities are here, and we actually have the Parthenon. Ours is not broken. So there was a recreation of the Parthenon in recognition of the Athens of the South that was made at the centennial celebration of the state of Tennessee. And it's still in pretty good shape, I have to say. There is the only full-size reproduction of the Elgin marbles that were in the British Museum. I think those have been repatriated. I hope so anyway. But those are also in the museum, and one of the world's largest indoor statues of Athena. Also, the Frist Art Museum is an amazing art museum, and Anne Neely, who is my co-host, the co-chair of this conference, and is in charge of local arrangements, has arranged some amazing docents who will be able to give incredible information. So if you're somebody who really enjoys that kind of thing, you're gonna love it. Our hotel, Nashville hotels are pretty hip, and Moxie is the hippest of the hip. So, and also I think that Ellis and Ann negotiated a really good rate for a Nashville hotel. So please sign up for the conference and make your reservations, because you're not going to be able to stay at the Moxie for this rate any other time. And it is so cool. And only 4 blocks from the conference. So, and these are city blocks, little city blocks, not far at all. You'll love it. So I might stay there, even though I live here. I just never stayed at the Moxie. So all this is to say, register now, get those early bird rates. And thank you so much for letting me talk about our conference. And we will, if you have any questions, please let me know, any suggestions, whatever. I'll put my email address into the chat, but we are so excited for the conference and there is much more to come. We've got a lot of more things even than I've told you about. And it's just very hard not to tell you, but I don't want to tell you anything until it's confirmed. So there you go. Thanks so much. Back to you guys.
As you can imagine, Ellen and co-chair Ann Neely have been working very, very hard to make this conference happen in person. And we hope all of you will be able to join us. So the early bird registration, as Ellen mentioned, is up and running, and it can be accessed on the homepage of our USBBY website. We hope to see you there. USBBY is has its co-sponsored session at the virtual National Conference of Teachers of English Convention. We will be presenting Celebrating International Stories for Children and Adolescents, featuring authors Sarwat Chadha and Samira Ahmed, as well as members of USBBY's Outstanding International Books Committee. NCT's convention is November 18 through 21, and our session is considered an on-demand session. It was pre-recorded, and so whenever those on-demand sessions start, you can access it anytime during NCT's convention. I would like to take this time to recognize and appreciate our outgoing board members. We want to thank Deb Wooten, who has represented the International Literacy Association, Amy McClure, who has represented the National Council of Teachers of English, and Jade Valenzuela, who has represented the American Library Association. They have been dedicated and enthusiastic board members, and their contributions are deeply appreciated. We want to welcome the newly appointed members from some of our patron organizations. From the American Library Association, we will be welcoming Sarah Hill and Sarah Kelly Johns. From International Literacy Association, we will be welcoming Miriam Martinez. And from the National Council of Teachers of English, we will be welcoming Gloria Butte. Now we are ready for a very special program by Enchanted Lion Publishers, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Tucker Stone, USBBY President-elect, who will introduce this special program. Tucker?
Thank you, Evie. Thank you, everybody, for coming to today's annual meeting. I'm Tucker Stone. I'm the President-elect of USBBY, and I'm really excited about this upcoming video. I have to say that as someone who is, there are two things in my life that have really shown me the importance and the value of bringing work from other countries to the English language for children in America. And that is the work that I have done here with USBBY on the board for the last few years and the conferences I've attended with many of you. And on the other hand, my relationship with Claudia from Enchanted Lion. I would team up with her at ALA shows in a tiny 10x10 booth, and I would stand there and catch people who were waiting to talk to her, and they would just make time to listen to me, try to pitch them the books from the publisher I was working on at that time. And watching Claudia as she has consistently won Batchelder Awards for the amazing books she's brought over to the States, I was struck by the importance and the value of this work, the work that we do, the work to expand the lives and the minds and the hearts of children around the world. And to take things like that sound so highfalutin in a way, and to make them real, to make them tangible. When I talked to Claudia about putting together this video, I said, if we could just have a snapshot, a look at what it's like to take work and bring it over here. And so she and the team that she works with, the people that I genuinely love, are going to talk about their current season, why these books matter to them, and why this work matters in general. And I'm really appreciative of you for taking the time this morning on a Saturday to come and join and take a look at what's going on in Brooklyn.
The ideas that has guided us in our publishing from the earliest days of books in translation have been these words from translator Edith Grossman, which say, works in translation expand our ability to explore the thoughts and feelings of people from another society or another time. They permit us to savor the transformation of the foreign into the familiar, and for a brief time to live outside of our own skins, our own preconceptions and misconceptions. They expand and deepen our world, our consciousness, in countless indescribable ways.
Over the years, we've published books from Australia, Belgium, Chile, France, Finland,
Italy, Argentina, Spain, Portugal, Mexico, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Holland, Ukraine,
Israel, Japan, South Korea, Germany,
and more to come.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to be here with you today. My name is Claudia Bedrick, and I am the publisher, editor, and art director of Enchanted Lion Books. We are based in Brooklyn, New York, and have been in operation since 2003. So we are in our 18th year, and we have been publishing books in translation pretty much for that entire time. So at this point, we are very proud and pleased to be able to say that as of 2021, 25% of all books in translation published for children are from Enchanted Lion. And we are here today to introduce our books to you, share some of them that we're sure you know, either from the Batch Elder or other contexts, such as the New York Times Best Illustrated. And I would also like to introduce some of the people on the Enchanted Lion team who work closely around these wonderful books in translation.
Hi, my name is Emily Robert Wong, and I am an associate editor here at Enchanted Lion Books. My dad is French and my mom is Chinese American, and so I grew up in a very multicultural home and a bilingual home as well. It's been really special for me to come work at a place where translation is really valued, and books from other cultures and stories from other cultures are really valued. Because that's the way that I grew up reading books. I grew up reading books in French, I grew up reading books in English, and I think it's just amazing that I get to work at a place that has that same vision of a world that's connected by stories and spreads those stories to English readers all around the world.
Hi, my name is Eugenia Melo. I am an art director at Enchanted Lion. I am originally from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I work here very closely designing the books, art directing the books. And something I love about the books that we publish, both in translation and the original books that we make, is that they come to us showing us each individual way of looking at the world. We have published books from authors in Argentina, and I love that they bring a little bit of my home here, and they show details that are sometimes very hard to explain. And so I love that if that can happen with books that come from where I come from, then every book that is published in translation from anywhere in the world is a window and a viewfinder into details from other worlds, and I find that really beautiful.
Hi, I'm Emma, and I work with Enchanted Lion on the art and design side as an associate. To work at Enchanted Lion and to be surrounded by books and stories and visual languages from all over the world, from different languages, is really special for me. Having grown up in a multicultural house across two languages, Portuguese and English, and kind of seeing how distinct and how full each of them is in itself, and how unique and how different they are from one another, it makes me really appreciate the power that translation has, which helps us understand things from different perspectives, see different ways of viewing beauty or viewing happiness, viewing loss, viewing darkness, and being able to understand those and expand your own perspective on everything that makes up our world.
We are really excited to be talking with you about our program for 2021, which has brought 11 books into translation. with our first books ever from Korea, being One Day and The Three Water Drop Brothers. These books are not only beautifully illustrated, but this one in particular tells a story of loss of a boy who has lost his grandfather. And it's a very subtle and reticent story which explores this loss through emotion and through the child's own consciousness, and is quite different from any book about loss you might see in the American mainstream. We also have 5 books from Japan this year. We have Almost Nothing Yet Everything, which follows our book Every Color of Light, coming from a poet and an artist who are rendering nature in a really beautiful and vast and open way, with the margins removed and us able to see the mark making and the expansiveness of the artwork. Here's another book from Japan. It is the 6th in our Chiri Chira series, which has been very well received, and this one was excitedly awaited by many young readers. The Little One is a beautiful book by a young artist who is engaged in the old craft of copperplate etching, which is very exciting to us. We have worked with Arthur Geisert, the master of copperplate etching, for many years, and it's very rare to see a young artist taking up the craft. This is a beautiful book, all in black and white, with infinite shades of gray, and incredibly rich storytelling that is both in words and eventually becomes, over a sequence, wordless. We also have the Sato series from Japan. Each of these books is 7 short stories about a young boy who wakes up one morning and decides that he is a rabbit. And the stories are told in a very traditionally Japanese way, which is a very different kind of storytelling from American storytelling, which is that it's no great surprise that he's suddenly a rabbit. And everything he proceeds to do across these stories, however wondrous, however magical, however amazing, and however unrealistic, comes to us as simply a very normal part of the day, which is part of, really renders how children live through their wonder and through their imaginations, in which the most extraordinary things are actually just quite normal aspects of the day. Then we have our first book from Ukraine, which we are very thrilled about. And for a number of these books, we have gotten funding and support, which is also very exciting. It's a very challenging story about war, but the visuals are incredibly child-friendly and delightful and inviting. And the story is realistic and hopeful. It's realistic because it talks about the darkness that arrives, the struggle and the trauma, but it also tells a story of societal coming together, of community, of solidarity, and of actually seeing things through to the other side, where war departs and they go back to rebuilding their community. And one of the things we as a team loved about it, and one of the things that felt really un-American about it, is that it's not a simple happy ending, but we're very clear at the end that the scars and the wounds and the marks of the experience they've been through will stay forever, that each of these characters has been marked, not in a way that's going to debilitate them necessarily for the rest of their lives, but they will bear the marks of their experience as they move into the new moment with war departed and the rebuilding that they're going to engage in.
Then we have our first book from our new imprint, Unruly, the true story of a mouse who never asked for it. And it's a new retelling of an original folk tale from Hispanic Latin America that tells the story of a little mouse. Both the author who wrote it, who is Ana Cristina Herreros, a Spanish author, and then an illustrator also from Spain. They gave their own input to the story and made it a really a feminist retelling of a folktale that had a lot of patriarchal roots in it. We decided to include it in a new imprint unruly because of the way the pictures and the text relate to each other. At the end, we have a moment where the author, the illustrator, and the author connected and decided to do a silent coda, which shows the relationship of the story to the human world. So it goes from the cat and the mouse into the realm of women and the aftermath of a very complicated and challenging time. The approach of this book is so particular and so rooted in where it comes from and the state of things in the world where it was constructed.
One of the books that I want to talk to you about today is called The Most Beautiful Story, a book that came to us from Norway by Brynjolf Jung-Trun and illustrated by Øyvind Thorsæter. It was also translated by Carrie Dixon, who has translated a bunch of books from Norwegian with us. We really fell in love with the story because of how real it is. It's a difficult topic. It talks about a little girl who we find out is grieving the death of her brother. The story starts and she's running through this sort of dreamy landscape, and finally she gets to a lake where she meets Sil. And the reason why Sil is so magical and so important in this story is that she's able to talk to Vera, who's the little girl, about what she's experiencing, which is the death of her brother. But what's so beautiful about this story is that Sil's story doesn't stop at the death. Little by little, Sil is able to bring the little boy back to life. It's through this story that Vera is able to heal and really put into perspective what happened. And in the end, it's a very hopeful story and a very beautiful story, even if it's very unflinching in the subject that it's talking about. And that's really what we're trying to do with a lot of our books in translation, is bringing in topics that are difficult topics, that are complicated topics, that are topics that everybody on Earth, that we all have to learn how to deal with and process and learn from. We think it's really, really valuable to go to other cultures where they talk about death differently, where they think about these difficult things in a totally different way, so that we can share that perspective with readers of English. Another book that I want to tell you about today is called Coffee Rabbit Snowdrop Lost. This is a picture book that was originally published in Denmark. It's a story about a little boy or a girl called Stump. The gender is left up to the reader. And Stump absolutely loves spending time with Grandpa and Grandma. And you can see at the beginning the illustrations are really beautiful and lush and with tons of bright colors. But one day, Stump discovers that Grandpa is starting to lose his words. And these words are literally dropping from him and being left. And so he can't remember the words anymore. This causes a lot of turmoil and complicated feelings in the household, where Grandpa feels more and more isolated. And it gets to the point where one night Stump and Grandma wake up and they can't find Grandpa anymore. What we really liked about this book is that it doesn't shy away from the difficult parts of coping with a loved one's struggle with dementia, but it also leaves an important space for hope at the end. You know, it's not like everything is magically fixed and Grandpa is exactly back to the way that he was before. He still is struggling with dementia, he still is forgetting his words, but Grandma and Stump find new ways of connecting with him. And so in the end, even if it's not exactly the same way that it was before, it's still something that's very beautiful and still filled with love and hope.
In addition to sharing some of our new translations for 2021, we wanted to take you back and share some of our favorite translations over the last 17 years. Some of those being the Chiri and Chira series translated by David Boyd and written and illustrated by Kaya Doi. And what is so amazing about these books in translation is that they really transport the reader into a very different and very particular relationship with nature, where in these books you see children and animals and plants and nature as a whole taking up the same landscape and nothing being a background, everything coexisting and living in the same space in a way that is very different than the way that you tend to see it here in American books. With the Cheery and Chirag books, we published the first one in 2016, and since then we've published the rest of the series of 5 more books in the years since then, and we're really looking forward to publishing the 7th one coming up in the series.
Another one of our favorites is When You Look Up, written and illustrated by Decor, who is an Argentinian author and illustrator, and translated by Chloe Garcia Roberts. I really love this book particularly because I worked on it very intensely. I'm very acquainted with it, and I also love it because the author and illustrator is from Argentina, where I'm from. I think this story could not have been written anywhere else. It's deeply personal. It tells the story of a little kid that travels, moves to a new house, and everything about it, the landscape, the details of the house, the details inside the house, the details of the town he lives in is so particular and is so based in the author's hometown where he currently lives in Arroyo Seco, Argentina. And it's really wonderful to see the journey of this little kid who has just moved and feels like he's lost his friends, and so he has to be checking his phone all the time. But that quickly changes in the story when he finds an old notebook that makes him, as this book makes us, start looking at the details around him and really see and experience the world. It's a really beautiful, beautiful work of art that has 2 stories, a story within a story. So we see the notebook that the kid has found in the yellow pages, made from little pieces of painted paper that the artist cut and put together to make these really, truly lovely spreads that tell this like short stories that at the end we find were made by a person that lived in the same house in the same town as the little kid. And so what we are left with is this sense of connection through art and through storytelling that is really powerful, and it really is so personal, and you can feel it in every part of the story, and it really tells you of a world that we don't see here in the US. Another particular thing about this book is that we are the original publishers, we at Enchanted Lion, but the book was written in Spanish by the author, and so we translated it and we worked closely with the translation. But we decided to publish it both in Spanish and in English, in a way because that's the original aspect of it. So the book came out in the world here in the US in its original form and its translated form at the same time. And we find that it can go into different communities. It can also be experienced by the same humans together. We've had wonderful experiences of readers saying, you know, they're trying to teach their kids Spanish, and so they could have this moment where they can see the translation sort of alive in the 2 books together. Another exciting project we've been working for many years now is the Book of Questions by Pablo Neruda and translated by Sarah Elizabeth Paulson and illustrated by Paloma Valdivia. It's a selection of questions from the Book of Questions, and it is absolutely stunning. It will have both the Spanish and the English in each page, so that when you are reading the book, you will be able to experience both Neruda's original words for the questions and also what we believe is the best approximation to his words, to the sound of the questions, to the meaning of the questions, of course, but also for the reader to appreciate the details of the words that are being chosen, and to also experience the Spanish details, even if they don't or they do understand the actual language, but just the sound of the words or the letters or how they look.
As you know, Enchanted Lion is in its 18th year, But I would like to tell you a little bit more about how we came to be one of the premier publishers of books in translation for children. My work for 11 years in the nonprofit world was based at the graduate faculty of the New School for Social Research, where I was a project manager on a program that was focused on working with libraries and scholars throughout the countries of East and Central Europe and the former Soviet Union as those countries open up to the West after 45 years of isolation and being cut off from academic and cultural dialogue. One of the things that I found really incredible and most touching was that many of the people I met with told me about how powerful reading English language children's books had been for them. They mentioned Lewis Carroll, of course, but they also mentioned Maurice Sendak, and they mentioned Roald Dahl as authors who had given them perspectives and possibilities and stories that convinced them of the possibility of inner freedom, of refusal, of standing up to the cultures in which they were living, and that there was a larger world outside which reflected the sense they had of themselves or their own lives from within themselves. And being incredibly moved by those stories, I sort of turned the lens back on the United States and was kind of appalled to see what publishing here was doing in the 1980s, which was a publishing world for children which had become very provincial, very much commercially driven, and it was a time in which very little was happening in terms of books in translation. If we curtail the books that we offer to readers of any age and we constrict them to a single language or culture, we are going to be constricting our own lives and possibilities for understanding, because we need the stories and perspectives and experiences that come from other cultures. This is all of the material and the richness that we're trying to work with at Enchanted Lion, and that comes into publishing books in translation. And of course, as you've heard from everyone else here, we feel that a lot is going to be missed and a lot is going to be lacked by children here if we do not work really hard as an industry to share books in translation with young readers.
Thank you so much to USBBY for inviting us to do this video and share a little bit more about translation. And we also wanted to take this moment to say thank you for all of the important work that you do in promoting literature from around the world.
And to Tucker Stone as well, who invited us to share all of this with you, and again to all of you for the work that you have been so committed to doing over such a long period of time. It's made a huge difference to us as a publisher of books in translation, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you to Tucker for arranging this wonderful video, and thank you to everyone at Enchanted Lion for making this wonderful video for us. A few final comments. USBBY is transitioning to a calendar year membership. So everyone's membership will be from January 1st through December 31. We will be sending information and renewal emails to you in December. Second, we hope that you will shop to support USBBY. You will find information on our website. We are part of 2 nonprofit rebate programs, Amazon Smile, as well as IndieBound. And IndieBound benefits the local bookstores and the independent booksellers. So there's information under About USBBY, the drop-down menu that says Shop to support USBBY, and we hope you will think of us as you do your holiday shopping. One of our past presidents, Sylvia Vardell, and USBBY Janet Wong, have a new poetry anthology, Things We Do. 100% of the book's profits are going to be donated to IBBY's Children in Crisis Fund. And finally, we want to remind you that early bird registration for our fantastic conference is now open. We hope to see you in Nashville. Thank you so much for joining us today. All the best. Thanks, and happy Thanksgiving.